So I'm just going to once again thank David, who is from Fresno City College, who is the physics instructor there, who's been to many AI trainings, and I twisted his arm and he came here to help us.
What you mean? What Lori means is that she reminded me that this was going to happen.
But I really appreciate it. And I know he is very busy, and as are all of you. So I will turn the mic over.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And everybody, please, as you have a question, just open your mic and go. I haven't even had time to shave this week. That's how busy I've been. And we've got a new science building that's been coming online, and we had 5 days before the start of the semester to move all of our biology, chemistry, physics, and engineering labs over. So you can imagine we're not done yet. But yeah, it's crazy. Let's see. Kurt, what field, what subject do you teach?
Physics at Reedley.
Physics. Oh, yay, physics.
Yeah, that's right.
Yay. Good to meet you.
Too.
John, what do you teach?
Engineering.
Hey, fantastic. At Clovis, Reedley, where?
Also Reedley.
Oh, yay, yay, yay. And poor Vanessa. Vanessa in the chat said that she teaches bio, right? So no jokes about biology people in this particular, right? And Lori is our professional development coordinator teaching English, so she's going to have just dog in the headlights look, right?
But I really wish that, like, now that I'm older, I think I could handle physics. Like, I don't think I could have
Anybody
handled
can
it when I
handle
was
physics.
younger, but now I feel like, and I wish I knew more about it. So
Physics is about being stubborn. Okay. So Vanessa will try and help you out here and give you some insights, give you some existential dread about ChatGPT and all that kind of stuff. So I didn't have time to put together like fancy PowerPoint. So this is really going to be seat of our pants, live demonstration kinds of things about just, I don't know, a little bit about my journey with AI in STEM in particular, and then some results that I took, some surveys that I did with my students and some of the insights that they gave, and then sort of the current state of what's going on with these AI systems, especially as they impact our how we interact with our students and how students are interacting with their books in quotes there. So I figured let me get started with where I came from. I've always been into technology. I paid my way through college by doing computer support and all kinds of networking support. So I'm a technophile. There is not a piece of technology that I don't know how to use. And if I don't know how to use it, I can figure it out. Computers always lose when I'm around eventually, because I just don't give up on them. And I'm the kind of person that if they ask for tech support and I walk in the room, it just automatically starts working. It's one of those horrible things that we tech support people have all the time. I got my physics degree from Brigham Young University, got my master's degree, was on my way to a PhD when I got a job right here. I always knew that I wanted to teach at a California community college level. And, I started putting in my applications as soon as I had my master's, and interviewed at Fresno City College. Almost fell into the dean's lap during that interview when I tried to jump on a table to demonstrate Newton's third law. And I think that's what sealed the deal on this one. And then I've been jumping on tables ever since. As far as AI is concerned, which is what we're here to really talk about and explore, I had, maybe Lori can back me up on this one. I had that existential dread moment, let's see, but last August. Every beginning of the semester, I would take a chance and just plug homework problems into ChatGPT or Copilot or one of these transformer models just to see kind of where it was at. And until August of 24, it was hot garbage. It was a dumpster fire. It would get things wrong. It would get word associations right, but it wasn't doing the problems correctly, and I never saw it as an issue. Like I was just like, okay, fine, my students can try this, but it's going to be really easy for me to figure out which ones are trying to follow ChatGPT until August of 24, when I think it was GPT-4 came out, and I started throwing homework questions into it, and it started getting all the right answers. It was, and so I thought, okay, I should try. And so I fed it one of the tests that I make myself. It was my test, my questions, that sort of stuff, right? And it took about 12 seconds to get a 12 question test 100% correct. So sat there, right? And it was one of those moments in my career that is going to be very crystal clear for a long time. I sat there and said, you know what? I really see two choices here. I can become the teacher that puts their head in the sand and like many teachers I had, would come in with their roll of slides. Even though there was all this wonderful technology in the room to use, they would come in with their 30-year-old stack of slides and demand to know where the slide projector was and why do I have to use this, overhead thing. I could be that, but in terms of like AI, just stick my head in the sand, ignore it happen, spend the next 15 years of my career till retirement just, happily going about my business, ignoring what the rest of the world was doing. Or I could take the AI bull by the horns and figure it out and see run with it, see what it's going to do. And I chose option B. People that know me would be like, well, that wasn't a choice. You just always would choose that anyway. And they're not wrong, but I did for about 30 seconds seriously consider just becoming the worst version of myself. Let's take a look at the kind of things that ChatGPT is doing in physics. And you know what? Back up. How many of you have used like ChatGPT for doing physics engineering, have like messed around with it and tried to see what it can do for like homework and stuff? Does anybody?
I'd say I've done the same as you. I've copy pasted some problems in there and see how it does, and I've noticed the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
John, are you familiar with like just throwing your homework in and seeing what happens? Are you able to hear me, John?
Sorry, it's coming in and out. Now I'm back.
Okay. Are you familiar with using ChatGPT? Have you tried throwing homework problems
Yes,
and stuff into it?
I actually
Okay.
did a similar thing, started throwing some problems in there and started realizing, yeah, it can solve these problems pretty darn well. So
Yeah,
yes.
pretty darn well is like the astonishing bit, right? Because it's really only been about 6 to 8 months that it's been able to do this. And ChatGPT just came out with like their O3 model and like their quote unquote higher reasoning ones. And I noticed that it's getting even more and more accurate. But the kicker for me is when Wolfram Alpha and ChatGPT started talking to each other. That really kind of just opened the can of worms, so to speak. So Vanessa, I don't know, you can just type in to chat there. I don't know if you've had any kind of experience with just plugging in biology, like homework questions, assignments that your students are doing, and seeing like how close ChatGPT gets, right? So I'm going to share my screen here, and we'll just very briefly go over kind of what I'm seeing here. Is everybody seeing that okay?
Make it
I just
bigger,
lost.
maybe?
What's that?
Make it bigger?
I will make it bigger. Let's
Okay.
see here. I want to be able to see all of you on my other screen. So I see the thumbs up from Vanessa. Let's do that. Let's do that. Brand new setup in my office here. So still trying to get used to where the camera is and where my screen is and all that kind of stuff. Okay. So I'm going to try to make this bigger. There we go. All right. Did that help? That helped a little bit, right? So, I just started a ChatGPT thing here, right? Told it I wanted help. It's a lot of students just throw the question straight in, but you get better results if you give it a little bit of a prompt engineering, okay? And this was a case where I just, Lori, don't panic, where I just copy pasted like a screenshot directly from the homework, right? It's a problem that I was like trying to really see if I could break it because it had a figure and measurements from the figure, blah, 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 right? All that kind of stuff, right? And, it interestingly enough, okay, this is the O1 model that I did it under. It took it a lot longer than I'm used to it taking. Under the version 4 model, it would like almost instantly start spitting out stuff and sometimes start hallucinating and do some weird things. But this one took its time, right? 98 seconds is kind of long, and then started putting it all together. I had never seen it actually giving references before this model, okay? And we won't go into all of this stuff, but it it not only nailed the explanation, it nailed the answer. This is exactly the answer coming out of the textbook. And it did it in 1:38, right? This is one that I did just this morning. Okay, I just grabbed a gravitational problem for orbital energies, that kind of stuff, right? And this was one that was no graphic, so just all words, right? And the new O3 mini model did it in 39 seconds, right? And again, like before in the older models, the symbology was wacky. Like it would use kind of weird symbols sometimes for different things, and it didn't necessarily correspond to like any kind of international standard or anything for symbology. In a lot of places, it was like making up math symbols to go. Here, it's just, yeah, it's fine. Like it's doing the conversions right. It's doing all of this stuff right. I don't want to go into the math and science of any of this kind of stuff, but the explanation here follows. It's actually pretty good for the level of the problem. So this came out of a calculus-based physics textbook, for freshmen and sophomores. And quite frankly, I think it's a better explanation than what's in the instructor solutions manual. Because a lot of times the graduate students that are doing the instructor solutions manual either cut corners or use a weird different model, whatever, right? They're not doing it from the point of view of, say, what like the textbook level was. They might introduce a method that I might understand, but a student seeing it wouldn't necessarily get, right? And again, right, it nails all the answers. I could have just copy pasted this directly into Wiley Plus and been along, right? So in seeing this, right, in understanding that these models are getting just better and better at the quote unquote reasoning that they're doing and checking their work, the things I've noticed is that you need a lot less prompt engineering now than you had before. So with the version 4 model, we know what prompt engineering is. Kurt, yeah?
Mhm.
Okay, all right. Vanessa, I lost the chat. Where's the chat right there? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and Lori, you're right. This is the same, right? Yeah. And it doesn't matter if it's STEM or not. But I think the big thing that changed in the last 8 months is that STEM, we were always able to sit on our high horse and say, well, it's not, AI is not coming for us. It's here. Like, this is it, right? It's getting all these problems correct most of the time now. Seems to be hallucinating a lot less. I've fallen behind on this stuff because of the new building and moving stuff in, but not just because of the new building. This has changed 4 times in the last 2 weeks in terms of like what China started doing with DeepSeek. ChatGPT, OpenAI came out with not 1, not 2, but like 3 models in the space of 1 day, right? For all of these, like staying on top of this stuff is a full-time job, and my full-time job right now is unpacking a bunch of boxes. And supposedly teaching my classes. I'm supposedly supposed to do that too, right? Anyway, so I decided last semester that I was going to ask students. I decided that, we had discussions in my classes with my students about the state of AI, all that kind of stuff. And so I dangled some extra credit in front of them and said, fill out this survey, go do this And what I had them do is I said, okay, I want you to use ChatGPT to help study for this class. And you can do whatever you want. You can have it help on your homework. You have it help with studying the concepts. You can have it help you make flashcards. You do something, right, that's involved with this class. And I gave them a little bit of, where was it? I asked them I didn't really do any demographics. I gave them some information about, and I don't know if you can see this, right? But I gave them this prompt engineering exercise, right? Because there's these phrases that if you tell it, right, will greatly increase the probability that it's going to get a correct answer out, right? And so I told them, I said, do something with it, but be sure to use these prompts, right? And I said, you can just copy paste this right here, right? And tell it this first, and then go ahead and start asking your physics questions, right? I had them give me a link to their actual interaction with the thing so I can go in and see in more detail, right? But here's like the results. And there's two different classes here, and they're pretty much identical in terms of the results, right? Kind of one of the big differences. So I asked them, how often do you use things like this for your classes? And I can tell from some of their responses that I think they only answered from the point of view physics 4A and not holistically, right? But like in this class right here, which is my second semester physics class, physics 4B, right? You can see that there's a lot more students that are reporting a daily use of it, right? It's a harder class. These are students that have, been broken, right, in physics 4A. They've come through it. They realize they need more help, right? They can't do it alone. So maybe they're reaching out instead of for a human face, they're reaching for an AI or something like that, right? So we are getting slightly more on the thing, but the occasional use is still there, right? Okay. ChatGPT is the clear winner among my students here at Fresno City College. Little bit of the Google, because Google's sort of the default thing that we search for, but again, that's shifting as well. But really, ChatGPT is winning out. And then this is where I suspect that they were talking about, like, thinking specifically about physics and maybe not about some of their other classes, right? But they're really talking about using it for homework help, reviewing, and then getting more practice. This in spite of the fact that this old man keeps telling them that there's extra problems in this thing called a book that they happen to have bought access to, right? They decide that ChatGPT might be the better place to ask for extra questions, right? But notice, Lori, right? They're not reporting very much writing essays or reports. Either they don't want to self-report that, or right, they focused on physics. So anyway, the more interesting things is their their reactions to I asked them a bunch of questions that were on a 5-point scale, 5 being I agree with this statement, and 1 being that I disagree with this statement. So 3 being I neither agree nor disagree. And they find interacting with AIs on the whole pretty easy to do. Personally, I find it harder. I feel like I have to spend more time typing at it than if I just pulled out a book and found the piece of information that I wanted, right? I'm old school, right? I know my Google. I know how to write a Boolean search argument in Google to get exactly what I need. And I just feel like it takes me more time to get the AI to get what I want, right? There seems to be, and this isn't different with the other class, so I don't have to show you that data. This seems to be, there's an effect where in working with the AI compared to, say, working with the book or working with Wiley Plus or whatever the online homework system is, they seem to feel like the AI is helping them understand better. I have seen no significant difference in the performance of my students on exams in the last, post-pandemic, right? When these things have started coming out. I've seen a difference because of the pandemic and a lowering of scores, but the AI effect doesn't seem to have it. And then these are always, and again, this data is mostly anecdotal. I mean, I know I did a survey, but it wasn't designed well. This was kind of off the cuff, and I wanted to just get a slice of where my students were at in this particular part of the semester, right? And we don't have time to go in things, but they tend to report, right, that they feel like the gathering of the information is easier than having to go through the book and seek out the information for themselves, which obviously it is, right? Like, I can do research much faster using ChatGPT on something because it's pulling all this information and aggregating it and putting it down. It's just I got to spend a little bit more time checking the accuracy of the information, which they do report in some of these places. Okay, like this student right here, the non-AI methods are more accurate and less confusing, right? So they're seeing, and a lot of times as I read through these, the students were reporting that they spent a lot of time checking the accuracy, and so I thought I was a little bit clever, okay? Because I asked them to tell me how accurate and factual they thought ChatGPT was, right? And here we're starting to see, okay, I don't believe in the AI as much, right? Seeing a little bit of this shift towards the middle of I neither agree nor disagree with this statement, right? And then I asked them to explain why they answered the way they did up here. Right, because I was kind of predicting that I actually thought that they might consider it even more accurate and factual than something else, right? But they started seeing, they were being a little bit. Now, as a teacher, I'm kind of happy about this, right? Because I'm teaching them to be critical thinkers, and they're supposed to be scientists, right? And they should be questioning everything and be very skeptical and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's good, but I am a little bit worried about these spying. Anyway, I asked them to say, like, how did you know, right? And some of them were just saying, well, I just checked it from an example that we did in class, right? But a lot of them are in here saying things like, I compared it with other sources, which is, this is fantastic, right? I want you checking your sources all the time, right? I want you having 3 different ways to check your answer, not just one way in working, say, with the kinematic equations or something like that. Because this is what we do in science, right? We try to figure out from multiple directions, and if everything's starting to agree, hey, we might be onto something here. So, they're reporting, right? Look at it. This one admitted that they read the textbook. Right? Wow. Okay. But this one says, right, I wouldn't check, thinking that it would be correct, but then they're starting to notice that the calculations are wrong. And after this survey, we did have sort of a classroom discussion about this, and a lot of them expressed this eye-opening moment where they realized, oh my gosh, I do have to check it. Like, I've got to do the extra work to figure out and make sure it's right. Especially if it's not just my homework, because it's easy with the homework. Pace homework, put number in box is red, obviously ChatGPT was wrong. But as they started using it for preparing for an exam or quiz me on a topic or something like that, that's where they started telling me that they're like, yeah, I don't know if I can trust it, and I have to go do something else. Okay. So I thought a lot of these insights were pretty interesting. Okay. Here the students admitting it's giving me slightly wrong information, right? But for most part, it was correct. And I think we're going to see a shift away among my 60 students that I surveyed here. It seems like either I instilled or they've had enough experience to have a healthy skepticism when it comes to these tools. But I'm wondering over the next couple of years if that's going to shift towards trusting it fully. Because as the AIs get 99% correct all the time on everything, right? I'm sorry, Kurt, you look so young. Some of us can still remember when Google was getting a lot of stuff wrong. Right. And we started off thinking Google was going to ruin everything because it had all this false information. And now, like, my kids had to go through school learning how to not only search for things, but how to find references for the information. Right. It was less about the information. I'm sorry, Lori. It was a little less about like what the information Google is telling you and more about how do you know that Google is giving you the right information. I think we're going to go through the same process here in the next 5 years with AIs. We're like, go ahead.
Yesterday, I think it was yesterday, I had a moment where I felt old because I referred to a student as Googling something. They were like, we don't Google anymore. We ask AI everything. We AI'd it. I was like, is that a verb now? Are we're AIing things?
Yes. Yes. Right. So you're having the same experience I had when Google I was there when Google happened for the first time. Right. And
one thing that's happening with writing, and I don't know, this isn't physics, but I can put in a prompt and it'll give me a very general answer, but that's okay. But then I can kind of keep on prompting it. Like I had my students
Yeah.
write about their personal experiences, and then I can put in and say, okay, I had a fixed mindset in math on assignment, add an example, and it can give them like if you keep on working at it, you can get an
Yeah.
A level paper that I
Yeah.
might not think is
Yeah.
generated. So it's
Right. Right. I asked them about their confidence. One of the things in physical education research is that there's what is an effective teaching method, but then also is the teaching method instilling confidence in their ability to tackle something that maybe is outside of, you know, what they've been taught. So I asked them about their confidence, right, in their ability to learn after following this experience. And generally, they're reporting, right, confidence and ability to learn after using the chatbot. There's definitely more. There's probably like 3 master's degrees somewhere in here, just in this, you know, starting with this data and then like really digging into the weeds on what's going on here, right? That I just don't have time for, right? I asked them if it was a waste of time. They didn't think so, right? Using AI makes it easier to complete assignments, but harder to learn. So they don't think it's a waste of time, and they're like starting to agree, like this agreement here, this very middling to slightly agree type thing here, right? They're kind of, are they agreeing? Like they must be agreeing that it's easier to complete the assignments, but also agreeing that maybe it makes it harder to learn. I thought was kind of interesting. And then, you know, do I want to keep using ChatGPT was all over the place. So I did ask them, I wish I could find I should have copied and pasted and put it on a slide, and I didn't have the time to do it. One of the things that really got me on one of the responses, yeah, it's right here. Okay. This one right here. I lost it. I lost it zooming in. Right there. As a non-native English speaker, STEM class terminology confuses me. I can ask ChatGPT to explain the problem, right, with basic words and ensure that I understand. I'm shy. I don't like to ask questions, right, with this professor and the students, right? Again, maybe because of their perceived lack of English ability, okay? And I don't have to worry because it's a robot, right? What's a merry-go-round? I love the spelling here, right? Okay. There's something here. There's something here in the fact that we science teachers come in and we throw this high-level terminology, scientific terminology at them. And yes, that's part of the thing that makes science hard, is just learning some of this terminology. And I've always tried to make sure that my non-native English speakers, right, feel supported and all this kind of stuff. But there's got to be something here where these AIs, assuming we can get them to a point where they're correct most of the time, can help, dare I use the words, dumb down the language so that they can get an understanding and then maybe ramp that language back up to hold a hand, right, to help them get over that kind of thing. Like this student obviously didn't even know what a merry-go-round, like how it's used, right? Something that I might not necessarily even think of, right, when I drop the idea of a merry-go-round in class. Okay. So yeah, thank you, Lori, right? This student-friendly terms and the power of ChatGPT to take something that is highly technical and then say, would you please rephrase that from the point of view of like a third grader, right? It can do it. Like it's really fast at that. Where I might struggle and go, well, okay, I need, how would I do? ChatGPT's already done it, right? So there's something here, right? And it's not all doom and gloom. And then I asked them to give me their final thoughts on it. So no conclusion, like all the best surveys, there's no real hard and fast conclusions, but students are using it. My students in particular, which I am, full disclosure, I teach the top 1% of students at this school. The prerequisite for my physics classes are calculus classes, right? Like these are the students, these are high performing, these are not general education students. They've been through a lot of classes. I don't ever get them as freshmen. If anything, I get them as a second semester freshman, right? So these are high performing students, right? So among that very small segment of the population, of which I have only done basically 69 individuals, right? How useful is this information? Not terribly useful. But as I track it semester by semester, right, seeing if there's any changes in these trends, right, there might be some more useful information there. The boogeyman here, I think this is going to accelerate the failure of students who are just copying the answers from their friend anyway. Prior to ChatGPT, the way that you did this is that you went to Chegg, or you just found a buddy in the course that got all the answers. And because my online homework system randomizes numbers, there was at least a little bit of getting involved with the question, at the very least, of seeing what steps were done to put in your own numbers to get your number, right? So in a very similar vein, if I can just give ChatGPT my homework, I can get the answers much faster and I don't need somebody else to help me cheat, right? So I think it's going to accelerate the failure of students that try to game the system, right? Because they are going to get 100% on their homework in 15 minutes or whatever. And I don't tell them that I can see how much time they took on their homework. And then, like, in my exams, I've always written my exams to target, like, can you share with me what you know, right? And those who are just trying to memorize a process always die, because I'm asking for higher level critical thinking things and being able to explain what's going on. So I think it's going to cause students that are trying to do the least amount of work and get the highest degree possible, they're going to be able to do that faster. And it's incumbent upon me as an educator to compensate for that. Lori and I, before you all came on, were kind of talking about, like, these AI things seem to be making our job worse, not better, because we're having to spend more time figuring out, like in Lori's case with the English stuff, did the AI write this? Like, her systems for checking the probability that it was written by an AI are getting less and less able, right, to figure out what's going on. So there's that. For the student who is, and this always comes down to intrinsic self-motivation, like, does a student take upon themselves responsibility for learning, right? Have they put the responsibility for learning on their instructor? It's the instructor's fault that I didn't learn this. It's the instructor's fault that I didn't get a good grade. Seems right. That external, right, it's not my fault, to the student who takes upon themselves the responsibility for learning, right? I think it's going to help those students that take that responsibility for themselves to speed up the process of maybe interacting with the textbook. If these systems can get to the point where they've ingested all the textbooks and they know all of that stuff, and a student can have a conversation at their level with the content, I'm thrilled, right? Could it become the best version of an open textbook ever? Maybe. The problem is that it's not open. You pay $20 a month to get access to the best models. And so I'm expecting to be an even bigger digital divide in this sense between the haves and the have. The people that can spend the $20 per month and they start getting much more help, even if it's legitimate, like not just the illegitimate stuff, but like the legitimate, I'm using it to summarize concepts and help me study and blah, 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 blah. They're getting that with much less frustration, right? Than, say, somebody that can't afford a textbook, can't afford to pay $20 a month to OpenAI, right? That can only upload 3 pictures every 4 hours, right? we
David,
start getting that division between the have and the have-nots.
did you ask your students whether they're using free version or a paid version when they did this, or
I didn't ask it on the survey. I did in the subsequent kind of round table that we had as an entire class. I actually took a portion of lab for about 45 minutes to talk about this because I really wanted to let them freely express kind of what they were doing and all that kind of stuff. And there were a lot of not, I asked for a show of hands, like, how many of you are using the free version? Most of the class raised their hands. I only knew of 3 or 4 of my students that were paying to have it, right? And then I asked the follow-up question, are you now considering paying for it? And at least half of I'm using the free version hands went back up, right? Especially because some of them weren't aware even that it could do their English papers for them, which I thought was really interesting, right? They're like, oh, wait, I can ask it to generate an essay. And I just turned around right there in class and asked it to make a poem about Heisenberg's uncertainty principle in the form of, Hamlet's, to be or not to be. Right. And they were like, right. There was a few. It was just a few that were like totally naive and had never really used AI before. They were gobsmacked. Sorry, Lori, I just destroyed probably half of your students.
No,
But like,
I mean, I talk about it in my online
yeah,
classes. I did a survey too, and I asked them, are you using ChatGPT, the free version, the paid version? I had a whole bunch. And for the most part, they're all using free versions. I think
my guess, for English, for the written word, it seems like since the 3rd model of ChatGPT, it's been pretty good.
yeah.
Yeah. In physics, you definitely get more bang for your buck. If you have access to O1 and O3 versions of the models, it's much better than ChatGPT 4, which is, I think, the free version now.
I don't think that's the free version. I'm so confused because I have a paid
I'm
one.
really confused as
I'm
to
not
which one's
sure which
3.
one is free.
Maybe ChatGPT 3. It's like 4 is stupid compared to O1 and O3. So you definitely get more for paying, right? Which concerns me, right? Which is why I told Don Lopez, I was like, so when are you going to start paying for ChatGPT for all of our students? Because quite frankly, they don't use Microsoft Office. Like the district is throwing good money away by giving Microsoft Office to all the students, right?
Well, and so for Copilot, because I don't know how good Copilot even is, and I mean, I haven't played around with it. And
Copilot is supposed to be based on OpenAI's work, and it is in some ways. But getting Copilot to concentrate long enough to get you a decent answer is difficult. And it's kind of difficult from even just a faculty's point of view for us to like get into the Copilot version that we have full access to. So, but if everybody had a ChatGPT, so did everybody see the announcement that the California State University system is paying for ChatGPT for all of its students starting now?
it's
Like
just,
it's available in January.
isn't it just one college is doing that?
It's the system.
Oh, I
The
misread.
California State University system, as I read the articles, partnered with OpenAI, who knows how much they paid, right? Our tax dollars at work, partnered for the entire CSU system to have access.
Now that's also paying for professional development and on it too, I think, what I read. I think they're doing some PD and some student
Sure.
support.
Teaching the faculty how to use it in their research, how to use it in their classes, right? All that kind of stuff. It's the first huge system, educational system that has partnered with OpenAI to do this, right? So does that mean all of my students that come here from Fresno State now have an advantage over the ones that don't? Yes. right? So, and the scale of that advantage is debatable. But if AI does anything, it does make it faster to find information. And that information in terms of STEM fields seems to be getting more and more accurate. Just anecdotally, in my experience with all the things I've tried to trick it, fool it, whatever, right? Get it to hallucinate. The hallucinations are much less. This is within the last 3 months, right? It's much less. It's more accurate. It's nailing the answers. It seems to be taking more time to find those answers, and I'm sure that will fix itself eventually. But I am excited. I really am. AI has helped me to write some exam questions. I am terrible at the creativity of like, I know the physics principle and I know how to write a question about the physics thing I want to test. But how do I make that principle sound different 3 different ways for 3 different forms of the exam? That's where my creativity has always failed. I kind of get trapped into using the same numbers, and it's always a ball or a rock or something, right? Using ChatGPT, I can make it sound pretty different and still be the same and still be asked correctly, because you can really go wrong depending on how you phrase, right? Different things. So I'm finding it as a good tool. Lori knows this, full disclosure. The program review committee doesn't know this. I wrote the entire physics program review this year in ChatGPT.
Should I stop recording?
No, I go for review in 2 weeks. If they ask, I'll say yes, because I think most of those questions are a waste of time, right? They're boilerplate answers to boilerplate questions. What's really interesting is digging into the data, right? Which I did ask ChatGPT to evaluate after I had spent an hour going through the statistics and coming up with my own idea. In about 2 minutes, it came up with, it was 90% correct. It definitely missed a few things, and then it started hallucinating on some of the data. I was like, where did you get that? And it's like, oh, sorry, no, I was wrong or something. But
Have
yeah,
you
like as
tried?
an analysis tool, it's getting to the point where it can. Thanks, John. Have a good class. It was yeah.
Have you tried like Claude to look? I know there are some that do better with data analysis.
Yeah,
There was the woman who gave the workshop the other day. She went through like
yeah,
10 different AIs, and
yep,
I have the handout. I mean, I could send you
yep.
the handout, but I know
I Yeah,
some.
I don't have time to keep up with ChatGPT, let alone any other models.
Yeah.
I just decided ChatGPT, and for now, Claude, because ChatGPT had the Wolfram integration, Wolfram Alpha integration. Claude didn't have anything like that at the time. Wolfram Alpha is Mathematica. It's a programming language for doing math. Um, and because it had that integration, I was more interested in it. I wrote my own custom GPT and then fought with OpenAI for the better part of a month to allow it to be used publicly, which I still haven't been able to get to work right. So there were
Like a
some
bot?
features. What's that?
A bot? You made your
No,
own bot?
well, called a custom GPT. Like you prompt engineer a custom GPT, and then I can say to my students, okay, look, I've prompt engineered this one to, like, I told it, like I taught it how I do my problem solving method: visualize, strategize, do it, check it. I taught it like what that means, and then coaxed it into always answering with that sort of format. So anytime they paste a question in, it will always say, okay, for the visualization step, we're going to imagine that, right, or we're going to make a lit. So that it more closely aligned to kind of my teaching style. So it's like a custom GPT that was part of
We're
my teaching style, that kind of stuff.
we're doing, I think it's a bot too. We're doing a training on creating a custom bot using PlayLab,
Yeah.
which pulls from, I can't remember which one, but it's really good.
I think that one pulls from a lot of different ones.
It does have some parameters to it, and I
Yeah.
can't remember,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
think it's pretty good too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just in case you're curious
So
about that
I think
me.
there's a lot of power here. I wonder how it's going to affect tutoring in the tutorial center, to be honest with you. Um,
I have some good thoughts on that, actually.
Yeah, I mean, there's just lots of stuff going on, but I just wanted to take this time and thank you everybody for coming. I'm done. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to make them. But just like this was my experience. That's what this is. It's one person's experience in STEM. And as I wander around all the faculty, right, and I share with them what's going on, I tell them what's happened. All of the physics faculty, they started having kittens when I told them it was solving all their homework, right? And I'm like, whoa, 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 right? You do realize that they've been checking and doing all these other things, right? Okay. And they do, they're smart people, right? But like having discussions, and it's really motivated me to have discussions with my own students, right? I did at the very beginning of this semester, like first lab. We're doing lab safety. This is how not to catch your hair on fire. And let's talk about ChatGPT. Right, like it was just another part of the thing, and a lot of them were shocked when I told them I don't consider it cheating to use ChatGPT. Right? Thanks, Vanessa. And it's not cheating as long as you don't do it on an exam, because I want you helping each other anyway in your homework. Like you should be using other people.
Well, I
And
think
if you want to,
the points that you made about the language is important, about helping with homework is really important. I was thinking that the tutors, the Reading Writing Center tutors, could actually, like, I allow them to use a tool that does not allow, it doesn't write for the students.
yeah,
But if the tutor was sitting there saying, okay, now let's take the feedback and how do you put this into your essay? I think it's a perfect pair because it alleviates some of the pressure off of the tutor because it does give good feedback, but the students don't know how to take the feedback and put it into their essays.
yeah. I used ChatGPT to come up with some of the questions for the survey that I made, because I was getting stuck on what I wanted to ask. And so I actually just pulled it up and said, look, this is what I'm doing. I'm making a survey to talk about ChatGPT and my use of ChatGPT in my classes. Can you please ask me some questions? Like, what should I, can you ask me some questions that would help me to think about the things that I want to put on the survey? And it did. It just started asking me a bunch of questions, and then it said, here's a survey, right? And it had some decent ideas, right? And then jogged my brain on, oh, I should be asking about this, right? And I better write that down, right? So as a jumping off point, yeah, I actually really like it. And I live for the day. Full disclosure, I love my dean. We're good friends. I am looking forward to the day that my email bot can just respond to her email bot, and I don't have to check my email ever again. I think it's gonna be great.
I'm gonna just stop recording and then we can continue with the conversation for a few minutes, but I totally appreciate you being here.
Yeah,
Great.
Shirley knows.
Yeah.
We're both on the same page, just bot to bot. We're good.